Today's episode is brought to you by the Vegas Beer Guys and the Sounds in Cinema podcast. The Everything Sequel podcast contains explicit language, and I will not go to my room. Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel podcast. This is a one-off edition. Today we're talking Cannonball Run 2. My name is Michael Shantz of the How Dare You Awards. Joining me, the band who I will refer to as Host Tom for the rest of this podcast, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Say hi, Tom.
Wait a minute, this cat is dead. So, the Godfather scenes in this movie are located in that limbo between parody and unofficial sequel. So we have a full-on variety show Dom Corleone, but we've also we've also got major supporting actors from both of the first two Godfather films.
From all of them, yeah.
Many of whom have never shared scenes together in actual Godfather movies. So, Abe Vigoda and
it's the scene that explains that moment in the opening credits where you're like, oh my god, wait, did I just see like 5 or 6 different Godfather people names in this movie?
Exactly.
How's that going to work?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, that's how it's going to work. Okay.
We're burying the lead, though, Tom.
We are indeed, yeah. Well, Alex Rocco and Abe Vigoda didn't get a scene together in the original Godfather movie, and they both talked to Barzini, and that's a movies by minute reference, and it's the segue that I'm using. I'm not saying it's good, I'm saying it's the one that I'm using to introduce our guest for today. He's one of the most prolific movies by minutes podcasters, boasting Indiana Jones Minute, Caddyshack Minute, the Blues Brothers Minute, and now Trading Places Minute, which is where the idea of this episode came from. And he's also cornered the market on alphabetical podcasting as the co-host of ABC Devo and ABCD TOS, which takes the catalogs of the band Devo and the TV show Star Trek The Original Series, respectively. All of this makes him the perfect guest for Everything Sequel. He's one of my personal favorite podcasters, and it's a dream to have him on today to discuss this movie with us. Welcome to the show, Tom Taylor.
Yay!
Thank you so much. My gosh. I feel like I'm on Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast with that introduction. My God.
I never heard that podcast. Is that what killed Gilbert Gottfried, was having to do that introduction every time?
It might be, yeah. He just finally ran out of air. Yeah.
The amazing colossal death.
Well, I'll hand the reins back over to you, Mike.
Well, all right, friends. We got in touch with Tom Taylor. We asked him what movie he would like to do, and he came back with Cannonball Run 2.
Well, I don't want to misrepresent. I don't want to misrepresent Tom so early in the podcast. We'll get to that later. But I heard Tom on the Trading Places Minute podcast just say, kind of out loud to himself, as I guess your other hosts on that podcast don't really listen to what you say. I don't know if that's a fair.
I'm glad somebody does though. That's nice. I feel validated.
And so, I think the question they asked out loud was, should I see Cannonball Run and Cannonball Run 2, or is it too late for me to do that? And so, a light bulb went off above my head, and I thought, well, let's at least...
You came to my rescue.
Yeah, let's at least reach out and see if he wants to do Cannonball Run 2 with us, because that'd be a dream. And Tom very graciously agreed to
yeah, I mean, I've had all these strange holes in my movie viewing. Not even like strange, like just movies that, okay, everybody saw that when it came out. I didn't. I never saw Cannonball Run. I never saw Cannonball Run 2. They were really big. And so, yeah, the idea of when you came to me for Cannonball Run 2, I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to stay true to the spirit of the podcast. I'm not going to see 1 first. I still haven't seen it as we sit here now.
You're in good company with Tom.
Yeah, it's
he does that often.
It's
Yeah,
it's a good experience.
Now, Mike, you see why Tom is one of my favorite podcasters, because I very rarely have seen the original of whatever movie would do with whatever movie we're doing, including most recently Ocean's 11, which Michael has never.
I guffawed.
I think he's yet to forgive me for.
Not only that, but he and I were supposed to go to the movies the other day, and I'm so terribly unwanted that I got stood up by a man for a date.
Oh, man, that's low.
In a movie about apes, no less.
Yeah. But we're super excited, at least I am, to talk about Cannonball Run 2. I am the complete opposite of the both of you. I saw both movies in the theater, especially the first one. I watched that movie over and over and over again. These are movies that are from a time and place that at least I wholly understand. It's from my time, my childhood. It's a time when, as hard as it may be to understand, televisions were made out of wood. And
they were television sets.
Yes. And
made out of components or something.
When we decided we were going to do this, I think I mentioned that I was more excited than, any reasonable clinician would, it would cause them pause that I was so excited.
Yeah. It is it's definitely from a different era, and I wanted to see it. I wanted to see these movies because they seem like they're not only throwbacks to like it's a mad world or something like that, like where you just like it's populated with just people that from other stuff, and they're going on a mad hijinks caper thing. But it's also, and I don't know if this is intended in like the early 80s, and my wife said this. She was watching part of the movie with her. She's like, it's like a movie version of Battle of the Network Stars.
Wow.
It's like all the same people he would see on, like, including Jamie Farr and like, people from Taxi and stuff, just showing up on Battle of the Network Stars. You're seeing them in some other context, but they're also working together again or something.
Right.
And it had that same feeling. Let's just take this bucket of actors who everybody knows from other stuff and just dump them into this movie and see what happens.
That's exactly what it's
like. That's a ball.
Yeah. It's really interesting you say that because one of my big takeaways from the movie was that this seemed to be an early example of TV stars and movie stars mixing together in a movie. Before that became de rigueur in the 90s and certainly today with multi-platform streaming. But I don't know how many movies did this in the 80s where, you've got a sitcom star here and then a huge film star there, and they're in the same scene together mingling as if they're equals. Which, of course they're not.
Clearly not.
It's also to me like a certain time. This is the time where we liked apparently zany movies. You mentioned
you could still get away with that.
Tom Taylor, you mentioned the idea of like just throwing a bunch of people into a pit and like, see what they do. And they, like zany movies were so prevalent that we had even sort of like prestige zany movies like Time Bandits, which if you're too young is a movie about little people going into the holes in the fabric of time so they could steal shit. Also, Sean Connery kills a minotaur. So, there's that. And it just seems a very specific moment where all of this was free game. This kind of zaniness.
Yeah, it also made me think this is what film comedy would become if COVID never ended. And we weren't allowed to be with other people in movies. You had to make movies, in separate pods. So none of the actors who were making the movie could meet, and it's like I don't think it would be much different if this was a COVID movie, because even when the actors are in the same scene, you rarely see them in the same shot. And
I think that's especially true with Frank Sinatra, isn't it? I think he's the one too. Like I don't think even the producers of the movie or anything were in the room with him or anything.
I was reading about that where I thought it was funny because they also include a scene at the end with the bloopers that seems to show the audience that everybody was in the room together when it was clear they were not. Frank was by himself.
Sinatra was chuckling at Dom DeLuise's hijinks.
Yeah.
He's having himself a good laugh.
Yeah, I have a lot of and I have a lot of questions about those bloopers. I'll save them, but I'm curious about the intentionality of those bloopers. Given that this is a sequel.
Well, I got something. Yeah, well, I got something I want to mention to host Tom right off the bat, because this is the second non-Matthew Aldrich guest we've had.
Yeah.
And the last time we did this, we did 2010, the year we made contact, which is also a 1984 movie. We are slowly moving through all the single sequels from 1984.
Yeah,
which I think is fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, you're part of a bespoke mini-series of podcasts where we cover the single sequels of 1984 with Movies by Minute podcasters. We have Pete the Retailer on that show. We've got you on this one. It's going to be Jim O'Kane doing Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's in our future.
Was Airplane 2 this year too?
That's 1982.
Like 83 or something.
Yeah.
82.
82.
Okay.
We have actually covered that
well.
on this show, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I thought about the Zuckers a lot too when I was watching this, and
sure.
how, I don't know, it made me more impressed with what the Zuckers managed to do with similar material watching this movie.
Oh yeah. There is a lot of stuff in this movie that's we keep talking about like it's a throwback to different stuff, but it's also, now that I think about it, kind of a throwback to like variety shows and stuff.
It feels
in a
like
way,
that.
in the level of humor. Sometimes, like some I laughed legitimately at a lot of this movie and had a good time for most of it. But there are scenes like, okay, he doesn't know how to fly a helicopter. I get it. Like this is going on for like 5 minutes.
This
like,
is a long bit.
Yeah. How much did you expect me to laugh when you filmed this?
Well, that's the other thing. Like, to piggyback on what you're saying, it feels like a lot of the comedy feels vaudevillian to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It has that flair. It has that touch.
I mean, you got Sid Caesar.
And I'm really comfortable with that brand of comedy. Because going back to the shit I grew up on, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
You know?
And it is a really fine line. If I'm complaining about, like, a guy doesn't know how to fly a helicopter, but then I laughed out loud with Tim Conway and
Don Knotts.
And I'm like Don Knotts, getting slapped around by a monkey. Yeah. I thought that was legitimately funny. And I don't know what the division is there.
Yeah, I don't know what to do or feel about
the exact same thing. Yeah, right. What does it say about me?
Well, I know how the critics felt. This movie had 13% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, okay. Wow, really?
Yeah, 13%. It was not well received. And as we discussed, it's a 1984 movie directed by Hal Needham. If you know him, you know him. I mean, what he is a famous stuntman. He's broken like 400 bones. He broke his back twice. And then he directed Burt Reynolds in a bunch of shit, Smokey Bandit, Smokey and the Bandit 1 and 2, Hooper, Stroker Ace. Then he did things like Megaforce. And from what I understand, a pretty popular cult movie, Rad, the bicycle movie.
Oh, yeah. I remember that existing.
And so, that's the Hal Needham legacy, as it were.
Yeah.
But this movie had a budget of $20 million, an opening weekend of $8.3 million, and in the USA and the world, $28 million. Not enough to bring everybody back for a third one, although I found out that there is a kind of off-brand sequel called Speed Zone. And it must be officially a sequel because Jamie Farr is in the movie as the same character.
Oh, wow.
So this series is in our life sometimes, host Tom. We're going to come back to it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I did not know that. Never knew about Speed Zone.
That's interesting.
Wow.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned Smokey and the Bandit there, because the third movie in that series is famous for... I think Burt Reynolds has a cameo in it, right? But essentially, he's not in.
He's not in it.
Movie.
Yeah.
I wonder. I'd have to go back and watch them. I feel like they just reused shots from the first two movies when he appears. But
there's a lot of that going on here too.
There is.
It's it's sort of about 40% stock footage. This movie.
Wow.
Well, and I think it's interesting, Tom. you earlier mentioned that it felt like an Airplane 2, and was wondering if it was the same year. Because like Airplane 2, this movie reuses a lot of jokes from Cannonball Run. Not that you guys would know that.
Yeah.
But
Oh no! Oh, I knew that.
Right.
Yeah, no.
I look forward to understanding that. No, you know what's actually really interesting in watching this? I realized that I had a really strong knowledge of the first one just based on the commercials and stuff that were on TV all the time for the first one. So I knew like about Roger Moore and Farrah Fawcett and stuff, and I knew like they don't explain the Captain Chaos character in this. Like he just shows up and he's got like a mask on and a cape. I'm like, oh, I remember him saying, "I am Captain Chaos" in the commercial for the first one. So I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm along for the ride.
That was about as much explanation you get in the first one.
Sure. Yeah. Like I don't even think they say his name though in this one, but I knew it because I was a kid once and I watched television.
Yeah, I think they just refer to him as him, don't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, him is here.
And maybe it's just because you and I, Mike, have been talking about sequels for so long, but I instantly knew, without having seen the original, that was a callback, that character had to be in the original movie. And just the way it's placed in the movie, it's self-evident. That's self-evident, even though no background.
But that same thinking messed me up because as I was watching the movie, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to guess who came back from the first one. Like, I know not everyone did. And that there are probably some new people this time. And I think I was wrong most of the time. I thought that Susan Anton and Catherine Bach,
they're surrogates,
must have been in the first one.
Wow.
Yeah, but like at one point, like Burt Reynolds, like, "Hey, girls," or something. Like he like waves to them, like he knows them. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess they were in the first one, and they absolutely were not.
Yes,
I guess
that's correct.
Oh well.
This is what we're finding out about sequels. We talk a lot about surrogates, like characters who are placed in sequels to replace actors who haven't returned. And part of the game is acting like they're the same people, or they're enough the same people for us to just do the same thing again and go through all the same motions.
My Aunt Adrienne Barbeau told me that this is what we do in this movie. Like they make some reference to like their identical uncle or aunt or something. Yeah.
And to be fair to this movie, they seem to have a handle on that. There's an awareness that they're doing a cash grab sequel and that not everyone came back for it.
Right.
Like it's not. I don't think this movie is kind of precious about that at all.
Yeah. No, they just kind of go for it and they're having fun. And it works.
This movie's not precious about anything.
No. Thankfully, yeah.
No.
Well, now my question to you both, do we want to do... I mean, I have the list of other 1984 single sequels. I don't know if you want to blind rank them. We can put that aside if you like. But do we want to declare this a good or bad movie?
I have my opinion.
I'd love to hear your opinion.
I was looking forward to watching it. I'm like, this will be fun and stupid. This will be a good experiment, both as a sequel that I haven't seen the first part of and stuff. But and I had a fun time. I enjoyed watching it, and I was glad I watched it. And I don't know if it's a good movie. Like there's definite failings and shortcomings and stuff.
Sure.
Not that everything lands right, but I had a fun time in exactly that kind of battle of the network. There's Tony Danza. Yeah. There's Mary Lou Henner. There's Telly Savalas. This is great. That's exactly what I wanted from it, and that's exactly what I got, and I had a ball. And I'm actually I swear to you, I'm really looking forward to watching the first one sometime. I can't wait to see it. It's probably this times 10.
All right.
Who knows?
Tom Stewart, what do you think?
I mean, I had a lot of the same reactions. I'm pretty sure that this is a bad movie, but in pockets, I found it very enjoyable.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of those movies that you can do that with, where you can you have your favorites, right? The cast is changing out about every 3 or 4 minutes, and there are people you look forward to seeing again, and then there's other parts of it that you don't want to come back. And so in pockets, I enjoyed the movie, but overall, I think I think my biggest problem with it is that it's not enough of a race movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. They kind of skip over the race part, don't they?
Yeah, and I think they get bogged down with what essentially is a subplot that kind of becomes
Yeah, but the
whole movie.
subplot's the whole movie.
Well, that's it. That's it. But and then they have to very quickly kind of do the rest of the movie, and so
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a cross-country race that never gets them out of, I think, like Arizona.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
they seem very stuck in Arizona, don't they?
Right. And then they quickly make a cartoon of the rest
Yeah,
of
That's
it.
what
exactly.
that's what I found remarkable is that the actual story of this movie takes place in a 5-minute animated assisted music montage at the end
Yeah.
of the movie.
and
You know?
that's
And damn it, it works.
That's preferable to adding an hour to the movie. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting otherwise. But
Right.
I guess, in the end, I sort of thought, well, I mean, I'm fine with pointless, but I felt this was doubly pointless because I didn't even get the movie that I was promised.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Maybe that's the first one.
I guess so, yeah.
because of that, I think I would officially have to call this a movie. On top of that, or a bad movie.
You're
A
gonna
movie.
go as far as calling it a movie? That's very
No,
bold of
actually,
you,
I'm
Mike.
going to do the opposite.
Wait a
That's why
minute.
I got tripped up, because I honestly don't think it's a movie. It's basically a collection of scenes. That's really all
That's
it is.
fair.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
having said that, this movie hits me in my soft spots. I can watch Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise fuck around on film
Yeah.
forever and be a
Yeah.
happy
There's-
person. And that's all they really are ever doing, fucking around while they're being filmed. There's no sense that
Yeah.
they ever took a look at a script whenever they're together.
Right.
And but
Say some
they're
words.
always
Be
funny
charming.
together, and that's not to say, I think there are other funny parts in it. I thought because of all the Godfather and then the sort of James Bond adjacent stuff, host Tom, I thought you would love that. So, we'll talk about it as we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I I can see what you mean, but yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that as we go.
All right.
There is something very comforting and comfortable about Burt Reynolds, though, for me, too. Like, I grew up, I'm not sure how old I am compared to you guys, but like early 80s, like we didn't have cable, but my cousins in Ohio did. And so I would be there. All I would do is like have like HBO and Showtime on, and everything had Burt Reynolds or Sally Field or both.
Yes, exactly.
And it just seemed like he to me, and there's a part of my mind that just sees him as like, oh, it's summertime, it's fun, everything's kind of breezy and cool. He's a movie star.
Yeah.
There's just like nothing but good feelings associated with like this era of Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we kind of already talked about it, but there's the Battle of the Network Stars. It also feels like both of these movies, the first one and this one, they both feel like they're starring people that met each other on Match Game or Celebrity Family Feud.
Yeah.
Or
Dom DeLuise was so
yeah,
blind.
exactly. Or Pictionary, like Burt Reynolds had that Pictionary show for a while where friends would just come up and
yeah.
sit on
Wow.
couches and draw pictures. It's
Wow.
That's what the movie feels like, but it's like I said, that's all shit that I understand, and so it hits me in the warm and fuzzies, and it makes me happy.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it also
Me too.
tests the goodwill generated by that, I think.
Yes,
So
yeah.
by having such kind of limited content, it really it's
Yeah.
it's like how much of the free and easy patter between Bert and Dom can you stand before the lack of any
Yeah.
comedic content takes over.
Content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I still charmed? Son of a gun, I'm still charmed. He hasn't done a thing, but I'm still charmed.
Who would have thought?
Eh.
Well, we open with a No Frills Warner Brothers logo, followed by, it happens throughout this movie, you always have to decide for yourself how much the, a bit of racism, how much it offends you as you go along
Oh, sure.
throughout the film.
Yeah.
It's always going to be present. This is a 1984
Yes.
film. And, the jokes are cheap because we're meeting Jamie Farr, we're meeting Ricardo Montalban, and they are, of course, the Falafel family.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that firstly the warm, crinkly golden embrace of that 1980s Warner Brothers logo.
Right.
Oh sure.
I'm put in mind of watching Superman 3 on VHS immediately as soon as I see that. So, and that's a happy place for me.
Sure.
Yeah, I had a lot of predictions about how this movie would begin. The Islamic call to prayer is not what I was not one of those, I'm afraid.
Exactly.
But this is an interesting historical moment to have this imagery in the film. I guess this kind of audio imagery, I suppose, because it's before this kind of connoted terrorism.
Yeah.
Right. At this point.
Yeah. Right.
They
weren't the bad guys yet.
Yeah, and once we get into the the late 90s, the 2000s, this is always it's always the beginning of a film about terrorists. Is this Muslim call to prayer? So much so that when I went on a holiday to Thailand, so when I was on my honeymoon in Thailand, we stopped in Chiang Mai, and our hotel was just outside the local mosque. So we get the Muslim call to prayer at 6 a.m. every morning. And it freaked my then wife. It like freaked her out every morning, and I was like, "Did I marry a racist? What's going on?" And and then I realized, no, she's been conditioned by movies about terrorism to fear that sound.
Yeah.
But here it's playing an entirely different purpose. No less racist, but still.
Yeah.
Right. Good-spiritedly racist? Is that a thing?
Well, but that's the other thing about it, is that within it, as they start talking, you get that vaudevillian kind of comedy with the blonde, blue-eyed slave who keeps getting hit, and 1,000 thanks, and then he gets hit twice by both men, so that's 2,000 thanks. Yeah. That old comedy, that old kind of standard comedy writing is, like, hit it, punch him with a joke right here. And so it feels like, I think it makes the racism feel like it's all good fun, right?
Right. We're not drawing any lines. It's just slapstick goofery.
But you just can't discount that you watch it with different eyes today than you did back then.
It's a little like, yeah, back then it would have been like, Mr. Rourke, come on, knock it off. But now I'm like, Khan, knock it off.
We've come a long way.
We have.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think there's a level of self-awareness there. They've got, that they've got Ricardo Montalban, who's, a person of color but not the right ethnicity, and you've got Jamie Farr, who's actually he's Lebanese descent, so he's closer to the kind of actor they should be casting.
He's closer to not racist.
He's closer to not racist. And then they keep talking about, they have this slave, and they keep talking about how he's a blue-eyed blonde white guy, or gray, blue-eyed gray-haired white guy, whatever the color of his hair is. So it's like they're calling attention to the trope that they're doing, but again in that sort of sense of, this is okay, right? Because we know what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting to watch the needle across the decades of, like, what's okay to make fun of, what isn't, like, what's an instant gag just by having, like, an accent or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What the threshold is. And it seems to always be
But then on top of it,
I did think, as soon as, like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
As soon as, like, Ricardo Montalban showed up, I immediately thought of, like, I don't know where I saw this. Some interview. I think he said this a lot, but somebody wanted him for, like, as the voice or something of a Mexican mascot of some product. He was like a bandito. He's like he's like some chips or something like that. And he wouldn't do it because he's like, no, instead of, like, this Mexican being, I don't know, an upstanding citizen, he's a bandito. I'm not getting behind that. That's racist and silly. But here he is as a falafel.
Yeah, right.
Getting kissed by monkeys and stuff, and
I'll protect my own people.
He's got his own Peter, I guess. I guess so. Yeah. And he played an Indian on Star Trek. I don't know. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's true.
Everybody's got to work, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, then on top of it, we're used to this because this is all a cold open, right? So all of this is preceding, our titles. which brings back the original song from the first movie and recycled jokes.
I assume so, yes. I look forward to enjoying them again.
But just about everything other than getting rid of the paint job.
Yeah.
Oh, is that from the first one?
No, everything but. Like, in the first one, they stop at a speed
clever.
limit sign and they just cross it out with, spray paint.
Oh.
Spray paint. So they just get rid of it. They upped the ante. They upped the budget here, so they got a card to put on.
Well, and before the title sequence begins, like you get the sense that they know they're basing the sequel on the flimsiest of bases, because they talk about how you're the only son with a driver's license. We've got all this money, so let's just do it all again. There's kind of a recognition that we're going for a cash grab sequel. And it's we know that we probably shouldn't be making this movie, but we are.
But we are, yeah.
Yep. And we're glad they did.
Yeah, you could put any ADR over this title sequel. Well, I guess.
Well, they sure do.
Titles.
Oh yeah.
To tell any story you want, right? With this could be any story you want to tell. With just this footage.
That's true.
Yeah. And then once the credits do start, it's all ADR.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm so glad we have Tom on the podcast, who's done alphabetical podcasting, because I don't think the makers of this film understand what alphabetical order is. Because they start.
Is it in alphabetical order?
They said starring in alphabetical order, and then they do it in alphabetical order, and then
Telly Savalas.
Burt Reynolds.
then it says co-starring in alphabetical order. No, that's not how it works. You can't go back and then restart the alphabetical order. It's alphabetical order or nothing. So they could take.
They should just go back. They should keep it all alphabetical, but have starring or co-starring next to the person's name, so but then it's all.
It's still all jumbled.
Don't confuse the stars with the co-stars, but it's still in alphabetical order.
I mean, this
come on now.
The sort of pseudo alphabetical billing helps with the, the billing problems you're going to get here. Of you want to advertise that big stars are in the movie, but you don't want to admit that they're only going to be in the movie for mere minutes. So this is the best way of doing it, because if you put it in alphabetical order, you're not lying. Frank Sinatra is in this movie. Foster Brooks is in this movie.
You can't say he's not. They should have put them in order of screen time.
Yes.
People would be like, okay, I'll check out after.
What a credit that would be! In order of screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
I would love it. I would really love it.
I have to say that, of course, we got Daisy Duke here. She's very special to us all. Mm-hmm. But as a kid and as a grown up, I have a big crush on Susan Anton, and I don't know her from anything. I don't know if I've ever seen her in anything until now. But again, she was just always like on stuff and
probably Battle of the Network Stars.
Probably Battle of the Network Stars. And wasn't she like married to Dudley Moore?
Was she?
Or something bizarre?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's.
This tall, statuesque, beautiful woman, I think, was married to Dudley Moore.
All right.
Good for him.
Yeah, well done.
And what do we think? I mean, what do we all think about these ladies? Because I have mixed feelings. I like the fact that whenever they're on screen, they're running rings around male authority figures, but they have to do it with cleavage showing in tight outfits. Constantly brushing their hair and looking in the mirror, so it's like swings and roundabouts.
That was the style at the time, Tom.
I like it that they're always,
and you will not complain about it.
They're always playing some male dupe, and I like that. But
they do. But there's that scene where they're like literally in control of their own cleavage. Like they see they're working on the car, and the guy's just like staring down their shit, and like zip, and they zip it up, and they they get his attention, and then like when it's time to use their superpower on him again, then they unzip a little bit. Right. So it's they know the game, and they know they're in contrul of it. Is what I'm saying. It's their game to play. I think.
Yeah.
They're using all these dupes, as they go along.
It was minutely progressive within its regressiveness.
Yes. Yes,
Well,
exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's like how do we? So I mean, my exact phrasing of my note was, "This is some kind of empowerment." I'm not quite sure what kind kind of empowerment, but there's some kind of empowerment here. But none of it can compromise the male gaze of the viewer. Like whatever you do on screen, you still have to have that for the male audience member. So it's whatever they do.
It's the best kind of feminism. Is that wrong to say?
Well, we've gone wrong on this
movie actually passed the Bechdel test?
Right. Yeah.
I think it might.
That's great.
I think it might as well. So yeah, I mean, Mike, what do you think about how these ladies are introduced?
Well, I mean, it feels standard for the time, you know what I mean? Like, for this movie and for the time.
Standard introduction.
Yeah, just standard introduction. You know, what are you going to do?
I think they could only afford 2 Charlie's Angels or something and put them in a car.
And, you know, for a woman that, for the most part, paraded around on national TV in the most famous shorts of all time, the Daisy Dukes.
She has shorts named after her.
Yeah, exactly. She is fully covered. And she gets to decide on her own when she exposes her cleavage.
Exactly.
All right.
Good so again, minutely progressive within its aggressiveness. That's the it's the most we could hope for.
The zip is the image here, isn't it? We're kind of like we're loosening and then we're retightening when we need to. Yeah. It's kind of.
But that's the other. You Tom, you mentioned it earlier about trying to figure out who was in the first movie and who is added, and so. When you've seen both movies, you have to do this sort of Rolodex thing in your head of, is this an upgrade? Is this a move sideways? Or is this a downgrade? Which of the 3 is it? And it's like this spinning wheel. It's like the Price is Right wheel at the end of the show. You're out. You don't have control over it. You just spin and you get, it just comes up on 1 penny sometimes. What are you going to do? Like Jack Elam is in the first movie.
Oh, wow.
But partnered with different people. And it's sort of never addressed in this movie as though they know each other, which to me is hysterical. Wow. But that's part of, I'll say, the charm of this stupid movie. I love it.
Sure. Yeah, they know what to worry about and what not to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's really true. Well, the next is the introduction of Bert. Right, let's look to camera, which is looking at someone, but it's really looking at us.
But it's really looking at the camera. But I think it's a great camera shot doing both. Mm-hmm. I thought, good on you, Hal Needham. He's not actually looking in the barrel of the camera, but he's looking in the barrel of that fucking camera.
I feel seen.
You get both, yeah. And not only that, but the second Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise start talking, it's as though they have all figured out that they can get laughs just based on the 2 of them laughing. Yeah. We decided that their laughs are hilarious, and so we'll just add more of it. If
they're having fun, we're having fun. Yeah.
That was my big takeaway from the human bomb, or the beginning of the human bomb scene was that they just thought, Hal Needham went up to both of them and said, I don't really give a shit what you say, but laugh at least 4 times each.
Yeah. Enjoy each other's company on film.
What? So how did it strike you, the 2 of you, the human bomb scene and this introduction?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, Captain Chaos was, I didn't know the source, but I knew it was a callback. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just because of how it's placed in the film, and just getting the sense the film's already breaking down into a compilation of self-contained 2 or 3 people sketches. Like, this early in the movie, you know that already. If you didn't know it before, then you definitely know it now. But yeah, I mean, they're so good. Their patter is so easy and flowing that you almost don't mind what they say. But this movie also tests the limits of your patience with that, I think. But after a while, you want them to say or do something. So I go both ways on it. But I can I can listen to them for a good 5 minutes before they do anything.
Yeah.
When's the run in this Cannonball run gonna start exactly?
Right. I was promised cannonballs and runs.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't know how this movie was written, whether that's even the right term, but I wonder whether there were any conversations about, we'll call it the Cannonball Run, but we don't want to do a race again. We're gonna try something different. Like, I don't know, because it is sort of finding all these people, getting them back together, and then immediately we're into gangsters are trying to sabotage, steal the prize money, and sabotage the race. So the race is kind of over before it begins.
Right.
It's a sort of tell, don't show. Talk about the fact that you're in a race as much as you can, but don't actually race. You might be in a car, but that doesn't mean you're in a race.
I'm going to proceed cautiously. I'm gonna proceed cautiously because I don't want to ruin the first movie for either of you.
You better
not. The race does end in that movie. You see the end of the race, and part of me wonders if they thought, well, how the hell can you end the race? We can't do the thing we did before, and nothing else.
So just don't tell us.
Yeah, so just don't tell us. Like let's just have the joke. We'll have the ape joke. It'll be great.
Sure. Yeah. People love apes, especially in 1984.
And by the way, that is the same ape. That is the any which way you can, any which way but loose ape.
That ape must have had a fantastic agent, right? He was all over the place.
He's in Goin' Ape, which I also think is with Tony Danza.
Yes, it is.
Not Tony Danza's first Clyde Ape movie.
Right. Yeah. I'm not working with that ape again. Okay, I'll work with the ape again. All right.
It's interesting, Tom, earlier you said that you remember the commercials of these, and the only thing I knew was going to happen in this movie was from the commercial that I saw on TV as a kid, and that was the orangutan giving the finger to an old lady. So most of this movie I was sort of like, okay, trying to contextualize that clip. Like, where does that fit into the bigger scheme of things?
Yeah. Now I know.
You're just waiting with bated breath when the finger from the ape comes.
Yeah. But they must have cut it to get, and they must have been showing both movies, because in my head he was giving the finger to Roger Moore and Roger Moore was giving the finger back, so they must have run a commercial for
right.
Oh, maybe.
Not that I assumed the...
Oh, I just realized something, by the way.
What's that?
I just realized something about this movie. I was confused the whole time that they were starting off in California and driving to the East Coast, because growing up in Connecticut, and in fact in Darien, Connecticut, which is where this movie supposedly ends, and where, I guess, I looked this up, in 1979, the actual Cannonball Run actually started in my hometown of Darien at the Good Wives shopping center. I was like, I don't know, 8, so I didn't go. I didn't participate that year. But I was confused the whole time why they were starting in California and ending up over there when in real life it's the other way around. Although I guess they do both maybe. But I realized, okay, they're in California. All the cameras are in California. They're going to film the thing in California, so they have to start over there. Otherwise, they don't have a movie.
Tom Taylor, that is a magnificent pull. I love that.
Look at me.
But I'm also doing math in my head. Does that mean that you were born in 1971?
It does. Yes.
That's my year as well.
Oh, look at us.
I am so surprised that these movies stayed off your radar.
I said that's the thing. They were on my radar. I didn't quite get to them. I was watching other stuff, I guess. Yeah. I wasn't avoiding them. Okay. There wasn't a plan. I just didn't
I'm like that too, in the sense
of,
it's
happening.
If I don't see a movie, it's sort of gone forever. I really got to force myself to pick a movie I hadn't seen if I'm gonna. If it passed me by.
And in fact, I did that same thing. With Smokey and the Bandit, like 10 years ago or something. I was like, I've never seen Smokey and the Bandit. I'm going to take the afternoon and watch Smokey and the Bandit by myself in my house.
That's great.
And the whole time I was like, okay, this movie was huge. Everybody loved it. It was a phenomenon.
Why is that?
And I guess, there's like a weird like mix of like, oh, I can see what's going on. I can see why, I missed that I wasn't there for that then. Like that I didn't see it when it was out. Because it's probably a huge fun thing. Yeah. You're in a theater full of people. You're all going nuts. But yeah, as a movie, you're kind of like, all right, okay, Smokey and the Bandit.
Perfect.
I get it.
That's great.
Cross that off the list.
Yeah, I saw Smokey and the Bandit later in life as a TCM. They're like one of those TCM revival
okay.
showings, which they keep doing for Smokey and the Bandit, like they're trying to make it happen as a TCM movie, and it's never really takes, because they do it year after year.
Movie.
They're saying it's the 26th, it's like it's the 46th anniversary, or it's the it's like a really random year every time. So I'm like, you've got this movie, you want to show it. I understand. You've recorded the interviews. You're good, but
when it's Smokey and the Bandit, you have to go to the 46th anniversary to make it TCM quality. Like, that's a wink. Yeah. There's a wink in there.
And they're they're constantly framing it in different ways. Like they talk about how Hitchcock really loved them. It's one of his favorite movies before he died. But they're also making fun of how stupid the plot is, and I'm just like, pick a lane, right? You either like this or you don't. Stop confusing me. I'm trying to understand why people.
Is this a gem or not?
Yeah, I try to understand why people like this movie.
That's great. Well, the next note I have, because don't we meet? We have the Godfather scene, right?
Godfather reunion, yeah. Absolutely.
Man.
Which is one of the actual big laughs in the movie for
me. Too.
When this cat is dead. Mm-hmm. That was great. Dom DeLuise is legitimately funny.
Is a brilliant comedic performer.
He really
and I think this scene illustrates that completely.
Yeah.
Because he embodies that character completely. He goes full-throated for the Don performance. And not only do I love the line, "This cat is dead," but when he gets his new cat and says, "It's a tabby." Wonderful. He lifts the tail up. He goes, "A boy." Like, it's like I almost fell off my couch. I laughed so hard, and it made me believe for like 10 seconds that this was a good movie.
See, that's how they get you. I mean, it's a scene with Abe Vigoda and Frankie Five Angels and everybody. Yeah. Mo Green.
And the movie's full-throated as well, because it imitates the Gordon Willis lighting, so it's not just it's not all superficial. Like, they're really going for pastiche as well as parody. And and obviously you've got the real actors there, and this is in the dark ages between Godfather Part 2 and 3, where this is the only Godfather you're gonna get. It might not be the Godfather you want, but this is the only chance you're gonna get to see these actors back on the screen together.
Yeah,
and for the most part, they're playing it pretty straightforward. The only like Abe Vigoda very much leans into his look who's talking character, I think, more than anything else.
But he's an interesting case, because he can play both sides, because he's a sitcom actor, but he was in The Godfather, so he's got he can play both sides, and then he goes on to be a sidekick for Conan O'Brien, and you can see all of that in this performance. That it's kind of you can take him seriously, but you can also laugh at him, and he sort of plays both angles really well. And I think he's hilarious in this movie. Watching him, I think I was following him through the movie more than anyone else. Like, all his reactions are really, really great.
Wonderful. They're funny, and I have a personal soft spot for Alex Rocco as well.
Oh,
I served him once at P.F. Chang's when I was working at P.F. Chang's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And in the middle of dinner at one point, he just said, "You are really great. You should be a performer." And I dined out on that for, forever.
That's amazing.
To hear Alex Rocco say that to me. He was so kind. He was just a great guy.
Oh, nice.
And I love everything about him. And I think he's super funny in this movie.
Yeah.
And I'll save the moment, but the other two gangsters, they have a moment later. That's one of my favorite moments in this movie. It's so insane, but I'll keep it.
Do you think they gave Henry Silva the cold shoulder because he wasn't actually in The Godfather? They all ate without him, like at a different table.
But he is in
this movie.
We just did the original.
11.
Yeah, and he's in that
the original
movie.
1960 Ocean's 11 for our Patreon.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh, nice.
And he's in, it's interesting because that's this movie all over, because it's sort of like very intentional casting of Godfather actors, and we need one more just to round out this scene.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy's been in
Al
these
Pacino said no.
kinds of movies, so let him step in. I mean, this is only one of two sets of gangster characters that we have, because we haven't met the Telly Savalas gang yet.
Right.
So that's crazy. The two sets of gangsters, both with different iconographies completely.
Yes.
It's almost mayhem. It's almost like the movie's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's almost like it's too much to follow.
A little bit.
Well, the one other thing I like in this scene, though, I do like the writing of the scene. I like when Dom DeLuise is talking about passing on to the Don to his son Don, making him Don. That kind of comedy hits me in my soft spot. Yeah. That's just, I like that shit.
Super stupid, but actually funny.
And then to cast Charles Nelson Riley as his son, to me, is a stroke of genius. He's a specific kind of comedic performer that, like you, Tom, if you were born in 1971, you just kind of grew up with. The other show I would equate this movie to that I didn't mention before is Hollywood Squares. He's like
of course. Yeah.
He's not a Paul Lynde, he's not center square, but he's on that fucking board. Yeah. Charles Nelson Riley.
You could easily populate 5 or 6 different Hollywood Square sets with the cast of this movie and never use the same person twice.
And so I don't really know Charles Nelson Riley beyond the Jiminy Glick reference. So is this typical Charles Nelson Riley shtick? There's kind of casual homophobic comedy mixed in with an air of flustered nerdiness. I that's what I'm picking up.
Yes, exactly.
I mostly saw him on Match Game.
Mixed with stuttering.
Where he's just sort of... Yeah. Although on Match Game, he was a little cooler. He was a little smoother on just playing, being himself, like with other comedians and stuff. It was definitely, you knew it was up with him, but he was very cool. He was cool. I think he was actually smoking the whole time and stuff. Or everybody was drunk on that show, it seemed like. And they're all having a great time.
Really, all you wanted him to do was get to the part where he'd go... That's what you wanted from a Charles Nelson Riley. Yeah.
Being crafty. Yeah.
I mean, he's the straw that stirs the drink for this movie. I think he's the connective tissue between all the stories.
He's the only thing, He's connecting all the stories. He's connecting the various stories.
He's doing all the narrative. He's a character who's doing all the narrative heavy lifting in this movie.
Yeah.
It's Don.
When Don's not on the screen, people will be saying, "Where's Don?"
Exactly.
That's the power of
his character. Because you have two sets of gangsters kind of, fronting Charles Nelson Riley. So his own father's people, and then Telly Savalas and his people.
Yeah.
And they're both telling him, you're in a lot of trouble. We're going to kill you if you don't get your shit together. Mm-hmm. But then in the following scene, he's yelling at his father's team to get their shit. All of a sudden, he has power over them that I didn't understand where that came from. Except, of course, that the movie didn't have time to explain that.
Right. At the end of the movie where all these things are coming together, I was like, I actually don't know what's happening. I actually haven't followed what's going on with the
Thank
different...
you for being honest enough to admit that,
groups and everything.
That's what I felt, but I would never admit it.
Somebody wants $1 million. Yeah. I like, Burt Reynolds is in a dress, and that is somehow part of their plan. Okay. All right. Hijinks. I get it. Hijinks.
Thank you for being brave enough to say out loud that you struggled with the plotting of Cannonball Run 2, because I did too. I did as well. But
Cannonball Run 2.
I was just like, I can't admit that I couldn't follow what was happening.
Right.
This is the Cannonball Run 2.
Like the problem was, Tom, that just too much time passed from your childhood to when you saw the movie.
Yeah, I think
you're
right.
If you'd seen it back, because I had no problem following the plot, but it's because I think it's only because I followed these movies, lock, stock, and barrel when I was a kid, and so they all came back to me.
You still got that?
I have that 10-year-old understanding, exactly.
I guess it's also the, it puts you in a frame of mind, and I felt this way with when I saw Smokey and the Bandit as well. It's like gives you the most superficial, simple plot, high concept plot. You know, one line describes the whole movie, and that's what I thought I was getting here. And so, you know, in the last 20 minutes of the movie, I was like, "Oh, I should have been paying attention all this time." There's a plot going on in this movie, and I didn't think I needed to follow anything.
Yeah,
right. You should have told me beforehand. I know it's going to be a test.
Well, meanwhile, we got to meet the rest of the team, so we're going to meet Jackie Chan and Jaws, Richard Kiel.
Which I was so convinced that they must have been in the first
you would have
movie.
thought.
And I don't think they were not.
One of them.
Because they get no introduction
One
at
of
all.
them was.
That's a good point.
Oh, okay.
Richard Kiel.
But they obviously weren't a
No.
team. Okay.
Jackie Chan?
Boy,
Jackie
that's
Chan
crazy.
was in that same car with another driver.
Oh, in
Yeah.
the same car.
And
okay.
it made
Another
more sense
driver
because
who
the other
wasn't
driver
Jules?
was a Japanese man. And not
Wow.
Richard Kiel. There's
Oh, okay. So the fact that Richard Kiel is in it like a, kit like
Yeah.
supercar makes sense to people who have seen the first movie.
no.
But Jackie Chan is no, it doesn't.
Well,
Wait,
he was
what?
never in the first movie. I have no idea. This movie doesn't explain why Richard Kiel is his new partner.
Oh, okay. Oh wait, so who's in the
Jackie
first?
Chan
Jackie Chan
was in the first
one?
movie. Yeah.
Oh, okay. In that car. Okay.
yeah.
So that much is continuity. Okay.
With it.
But he's got
yeah.
a new. He's got Jaws from Moonraker instead.
Yeah, they
of,
substituted a very
of whoever
large
else.
white man as his surrogate for a Japanese man.
Okay.
That's so interesting.
All right. Oh, it's because they couldn't get Roger Moore from the first one, so they got the other guy.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
the first one. Yeah.
The other,
Okay.
yeah, and the other guy from specifically from The Spy Who Loved Me, I guess, as well, like because we're gonna do a lot of that shtick later on. That answers. Well, I don't know if it
Yeah.
answers the questions I had, but I made a lot of notes about how we're in that car. You've got the kind of cultural stereotype of Asian people are very high tech, and I don't know if they know that he's Chinese, that he's like Chinese rather than Japanese, but like it's all
That's
part
true.
of the
Yeah,
same.
right.
Like I don't know that, but
Right.
that's the stereotype they're playing. And then they've thrown Jaws in because there's the movie intertextuality of he's a Bond actor in a high tech car, so there's a lot. They're playing one off the other here. What you know about movies and what you think you know about people's cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, and I was surprised that they didn't make more of like just the simple height difference between Richard Kiel and
right.
Jackie Chan. Like as soon as they were together, I'm like, okay, here we go. There's gonna be 10 minutes of this or something. And it was like almost
You
none
thought
of
it would come out in that biker
Which is-
fight, but he just sits off to the side eating
Exactly.
watermelon.
Yeah. Yeah, and he kind of drags. He could have like flung him over his shoulder or something when he brings him away from
Yeah,
the
right.
fight. But no, he kind of drags him away.
Yeah.
Like, so that's kind of refreshing in a way. And I know I'm not Asian. I'm just a white guy saying this, but it seemed like I would have expected more, like you were saying, just very casual racism in the name of fun. I'm doing air quotes
Yeah.
because I didn't get a ton of that. Besides the, I guess the Asian guy is super into high tech stuff and whatever, and I don't know what he's saying, but he's saying something. Like beyond just the simple thing. Jackie Chan, he's a martial arts guy, so he's going to do martial arts. But besides that, it didn't seem like they. I don't know. There wasn't like a lot of like what you would expect in this kind of from this period. At this level
I
of
agree.
humor, they would have gone more in like gongs and whatever. Just
They did do
lowbrow
something,
kinda
yeah,
cheap shots.
yeah. They did some things that I really liked, which no subtitles. Richard Kiel just understands everything that he says. He speaks the
Yeah.
language,
Yeah.
and they
Right.
didn't go for any of those kind of cheap jokes. They seemed to actually be
Right.
teammates and friends who
Yeah.
genuinely like each other, and that part I like.
Yeah. Temple of Doom could have learned from this movie. I'm just thinking about Short Round in that movie. They do a lot worse stuff with him than they do in this movie.
With the fortune cookies, etc. Yes.
Fortune cookies and whatnot. Like, would you guys stop it?
I mean, is it going too far to say that they've cast Richard Kiel against type? Like, because he's talking a lot, not doing heavy stuff.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He won't shut up.
It's not,
But it's kind
Yeah.
of great. He's just a guy. He's like a big kind of strange guy who, That's not his
Yeah,
thing.
he's not
the guy.
biting cable or bending golf clubs.
Well, it's like
Right.
they've taken Jules from the very end of Moonraker after he sort of makes the turn.
Pacified.
Yeah.
Pacified by
they've,
love.
They've extrapolated from there. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Something on the inside is blossom.
this double acts, as we've all said, doesn't really make much sense. But it's like it's a composite of of where these guys were in the original. But this is some of my favorite parts of the movie, are with these two guys. I mean, anytime you get to see Jackie Chan doing martial arts,
Right.
Yeah.
it scratches that itch for practical cinema. Seeing all the
Right.
all the
Yeah.
stunt work he does, and then and the choreographed fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So that movie definitely gets me on that level. Even like the monster truck stuff, I'm like, it's low humor, but they're doing it in camera.
Right.
Like that's impressive. More films have more or less moved away from that kind of practical stunt work now, unless and when they do it, they make a huge deal out of it. But this is just par for the course at this point, and I really like that.
And the Bigfoot scene stars the film's director as the guy whose car gets run over. That's Hal Needham.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh.
That's a moment in the movie where you look at your watch and you're like, "Oh, is it 1984? There's a monster truck. And it's called Bigfoot." Like, is that like the first one that anybody ever saw? Maybe?
At one
Like,
point,
that's like an
everybody
absolute
in this country knew about Bigfoot, like it was the Oscar Wienermobile. These were the two
Right,
things,
yeah.
the two cars we really
Yeah.
cared about.
Yeah, and Kit. Don't forget Kit.
And then, okay, but I want to mention one thing because the next scene we have up is Sammy Davis Jr. going to get
It's like
Dean
a variety bill. It's like, how are we going to put all these people on the same in the same show?
Yeah.
Like, where are we going to put these people?
But I want to ask you both a specific question about Sammy Davis knocking on Dean Martin's door. Because am I the only one upset that he didn't look into the peephole with his glass eye?
Oh my God, I was waiting for that. I actually was waiting for that.
He should have absolutely
and it
done
didn't
that.
happen. Like you get them like looking and they're like, "Oh, I don't know. Gonna go to the other one or something."
They missed a golden opportunity
Nothing.
for a great joke.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that wasn't even like a blooper,
Yeah.
like at the
Yeah,
end, like somebody
right.
like him making a joke about it that's not in the script or something.
Wow. How can you
well.
be so off your comedic game to get that far and not?
I know. Come on.
Not take it to the logical extreme. Comedically there. But in a lot, a lot of this movie is actually not making the most obvious joke, just by necessity of
I guess
everything
so.
is so jumbled up, like nothing is kind of quite fits. So it might not feel right to do the most obvious joke in that setup. I don't know.
They pick and choose their times for restraint, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we take a break and then we'll come right back.
Okay.
How about that?
Sounds good. I want to say one more thing about this scene, and we'll throw this both out to you, and we can discuss it afterwards.
All right.
Would this scene with Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. be any different if they were both dementia sufferers? Would you have to do any rewriting to make that happen? I'll leave you with that.
We'll think about it and we'll come back. Right after this.
I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe two craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook, They're on Instagram. They'll try new beers. They'll tell you about beer. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.
If you like podcasts like I do, boy, do I have a treat for you. You need to
stay on target
and check out the Sounds and Cinema podcast. Listen as your host, sound designer and music creator Tony Parham, and co-host, musical performer and sound lover Derek Hansen, D-Rock if you're nasty, and I am, discuss all things sound related to film, television, stage, and theatrical productions. They discuss environmental sounds, bioacoustics, dialogue, the nature of communication through sound, but as an added bonus, they drink beer and try to
stay on target.
Find them wherever you get your podcasts and listen to the pure mania of a man who can charitably be described as Doug, the dog from Up, and another man with a soothing and sultry voice trying to get that man to
stay on target.
That's the Sounds and Cinema podcast. Tune in and listen to the sounds they are creating just for you. We're back. Here we are discussing the legacy of Cannonball Run 2, a 1984 film directed by Hal Needham. Well, Tom posed a question. My answer is no. I also pose a question to the two of you as well. I mean, we're at peak Dean Martin pickled here, aren't we? I mean,
I felt very bad for him in this movie.
Yeah.
And I've never felt that way about any other incarnation of Dean Martin I've seen in a movie.
Right, exactly. That's how I felt. I thought, oh, man. But there were times where he was also so legitimately funny.
Yeah. He still got it.
I thought, you know, even at what might have been his worst, he still can shine.
Yeah. I haven't seen a ton of his movies from like his heyday, but I imagine that, like the level of comedy is about the same as this, really. At least his scenes with Sammy Davis Jr. and stuff. That
right.
It's a little, it's just easy. It's kind of easy and stupid and fun. And so, you know, in a way that's kind of nice to see, I suppose. I still feel bad for that woman in his bed, though. I don't know if she wants to be there.
Yeah, she really looked like she wasn't there by choice.
Do I have to kiss Dean Martin?
Either in or out of world.
Again?
I'm not quite sure what was.
Yeah.
What was going on there? Yeah, but that's their introduction into the movie.
Well,
what are you gonna do?
The question I have, having not seen the original, but I do know that they pretend to be priests. Actually, this movie tells you that as well. In that movie, they pretend to be priests. So this is an inversion here where they're now cops. That's the way that they're avoiding getting pulled over.
I love that they think posing as priests and or cops in a Corvette is enough of a cover. You hardly ever see
and wouldn't get them into more trouble.
Cruising around in a Corvette.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you're just pretending to be cops. Okay, we'll want to arrest you. Right. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with
we're undercover. That's why we have the Corvette. But you're in uniform. Oh, you're right.
And then they transplant that onto the nuns in this the fake nuns in this movie.
Yeah.
So they're kind of they're inverting but also doubling down at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
They've sort of transplanted that onto two different characters.
I already said that I had a huge crush on Susan Anton, but I found out during this movie that I have a huge crush on Mary Lou Henner. I never knew that before.
I always had a crush
She's downright charming.
Mary Lou Henner.
Yeah.
From the Taxi days.
This is like a...
I watched Taxi, but I think I watched it at like a young enough age and then stopped.
Right.
You know, I didn't like continue. I don't know. It just didn't connect with me. It didn't, I don't know. But now I'm like, all right, Mary Lou Henner, hooray.
Yeah.
That's how I express that. I go hooray when I see an attractive woman.
Perfect.
Hooray.
Well, I
get
it,
super excited, the woman gets a hooray.
It needs someone that charming to kind of, double with kind of spar with Bert and Dom.
Yeah.
And they got Shirley MacLaine in the mix as well, so they've each got their own,
of course,
kind of sort of female equivalent.
Yeah, I just
It's
always
nice the way things
assumed
work
that
out in the
Farrah
movies.
Fawcett was counting money of residual checks from that poster that all men my age probably relieved themselves to. She has like one of the most famous posters.
I had a puzzle of that poster.
There you go.
Great.
Well, so what do you think of the teaming up of the nuns with our heroes, Bert and Dom?
The boy nun, boy nun.
Boy nun, boy nun.
It's very, it's a good use of all of them, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I think Shirley MacLaine and Burt Reynolds make a good pair.
They do.
I don't totally buy Mary Lou Henner being enamored with Dom DeLuise, but I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I thought
Works
she
for the
sold
movie.
it well enough.
She did.
I don't know. It was all about what good people they all are. That was the thing as well. Well, it didn't feel
Right.
necessarily sexual, even though that's what the script is telling us. It's all about with the hands on the legs and
She's attracted to what's on the inside.
But
yeah.
I was a little more interested in the other side of it because it seemed to me that Burt Reynolds' J.J. McClure seemed to intuit that there was some bullshit going on. Because he's a bullshitter.
Yeah.
And
Right.
to me, it like there was something at play that started to really interest me, that he knew what was going on and Shirley MacLaine knew that what was going on, but neither one of them were saying anything.
yeah.
Yeah. Because they're pros.
And then, of course, we lose it when they come out of the convenience store, the 7-Eleven with the beer and the hot dogs. And it's all a surprise. But to me, there was something going on interesting before that where they all kind of knew who they were. Except, of course, for Dom DeLuise, because Victor doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
Right.
and
That was fairly uncalculated.
wearing, just wearing her panties out.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
public, outdoors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big giveaway. As
Yeah.
It was. They should have thought that through.
Yeah, and I like and it speaks well of the movie as well. They they have the conversation with Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. where they say, we're never going to try this dumb routine where people, where they pretend to be holy people to get out of it. And we know that the movie's perfectly willing to reuse that dumb idea. So but it's like, oh, the movie knows that that they're just reusing a dumb idea as well. So I'm okay with it. I'm back to being okay with it.
Right. Yeah. We knew what we were getting into when we bought our tickets.
Did either one of you were you looking at first Cannonball Run shit? If I was to ask you, were Mel Tillis and Tony Danza in the first movie? Do you already know the answer, or could you guess?
I do not know the answer, but I'm going to guess no. And when I say guess, I mean it could be either one. I really don't know, but I'm going to guess no.
What do you think, Tom?
I think the ape is the only carryover.
No, incorrect. There is one carryover.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
Not the ape and not Tony Danza.
The salesman,
Mel Tillis.
the guy who's...
Oh, really?
Yeah, Mel Tillis was with Terry Bradshaw in the first movie.
What?
And so I guess my question is, with Tony Danza and the ape, did we go up? Did we go sideways? Did we get that downgrade? Upgrade, downgrade?
Your mileage may vary.
Well, I think if you lost the... I mean, I've got a lot of questions about this ape. I don't know why the movie feels like it has to explain to us that he's not driving the limousine. Like, whose benefit is that for? Like...
It's almost a letdown. That's crazy. The monkey's driving
Are
a
they
car.
worried that we really think there's a orangutan out there driving a limousine? Like, what? Who is that? Like, who is that supposed to satisfy? That.
They already dropped Burt Reynolds in a bomb. They've
you've
done
had-
a lot of
you've had
crazy
plenty.
stuff. But like, everybody, don't freak out. The monkey's not driving the car. It's okay. We're not nuts. It's just the guy in the back seat.
And they
Relax.
don't need the circus music either. That's the other part of it, is that they don't need like once you've got an ape driving a car, circus music is redundant at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting. I mean, it's everything around Clyde the orangutan is kind of surplus to requirements, really. I mean, they're all gonna all gonna play second fiddle. You could have the best comic actor in the you have Tim Conway and Don Knotts in the scene, and the ape is still the top of the bill.
You were mentioning you're not sure how much mileage you get out of like Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds, like banter and stuff, like how long they can do the monkey stuff. Like within a couple of seconds, I'm like, okay, the monkey's he's gonna make funny faces and he's gonna looks like he's flipping somebody off. Okay. Like, and again, it is very like, Carol Burnett show or something, or just variety show, kind of like, we'll put something mildly silly on the screen and people will go nuts. They will love it. This is the most amazing thing they've ever seen in their life. The monkey stuff was mostly kind of like, okay. Until Tim Conway and Don Knotts showed up, and I thought that there's something about their timing dealing with the monkey was incredibly funny to me.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's just two old school guys. They say don't work with children or animals, but if you have Don Knotts and Tim Conway, they're two guys that can do it. They're that good.
Right.
Yeah, they're up for the challenge. It's like we'll handle this one.
Yes, exactly. We'll be fine. Don't worry about us.
I mean, this is the race part of the movie that we're in the thick of now. We've got,
the Arizona part.
Yeah, the Arizona.
The race across Arizona.
Race across Arizona. We've got the car going into the water, becoming the Spy You Love Me car.
Yeah.
And the boat with Foster Brooks and Sid Caesar. Again, like, this boat of cameos. So.
And they copy a sight gag from Caddyshack, I noticed. Like somebody getting pulled in the water by a fishing line that's caught on something really fast and getting pulled through the water.
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, in both movies, the people just don't let go of the fishing pole.
No, it wouldn't be as funny if they did. So they have to hold on.
This is around this point with the helicopter scene that Tom, you began to fantasize him quite quickly.
There's one part that makes me laugh really hard though, and it's when Alex Rocco yells out, "I love being a gangster."
This is what I hoped for when I was a kid.
There's something about that really gets me whenever I see it.
As long as I lived, I always wanted to be a gangster piloting a helicopter.
He's so exuberant. He's so pleased, You see his whole life in that moment. This is all he ever wanted. I love it.
Bless his heart.
It's like right in between Godfather and Goodfellas. It's like, it's paving the way for Goodfellas to come in and reinvent the gangster movie where people talk about how they love being gangsters. I mean, all of Abe Vigoda's shtick about reading the helicopter manual, I mean, I went for that big. I thought that he did that really, that was a really solid bit that he did really well. And of all the pointless runners in this movie, and there are a lot of them.
Oh yeah,
Abe Vigoda trying to figure out why they failed is a really he just starts to go into an explanation about why their plan didn't work.
Yeah,
and then what's funny to me too is because the runner is mostly those two, and then out of nowhere you have Gazzo, Alex V, Henry Silva. You have those two together out of nowhere. But it's one of my biggest laughs is when Henry Silva, I mentioned it earlier that I would get to it, when he's trying to shoot those bottles.
Yeah.
And when Gazzo comes over and slaps him, and he's like, "Knock that off!" and he shoots one more time. He's like, "You're not gonna need it." I think that's one of the funniest bits in the whole fucking movie. I just lose my shit.
That is good.
That's very good.
God, it's funny.
People getting mad over
Yeah,
stupid stuff is
it's
funny.
like that, and I love being a gangster. Those are things that sing to me in this movie for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, I mentioned not understanding the end of the movie and the plot of the movie, but there's another thing that I completely missed. I don't know why Jim Neighbors is in the car with them for a while. How did that happen? And why? Why did the writers of the movie say we need more Jim Neighbors? We'll have him ride with them for a little bit, and then not.
Well, I think I think there's two answers. I think there's one narratively, which is weak, and one because they're just friends and they wanted him in the movie, which is the real answer.
There you go.
But narratively, the cops had pulled him over, and it looks like the cop wasn't going to buy it, and then he was the saving grace, and Burt Reynolds ordered him to help drive the nuclear material.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. That's just flimsy enough to work. I'll buy it.
That was my real 1992 memory that host Tom knows well.
Yeah,
coming through for you in the clutch.
Mike has instant recall of anything from a movie around the early 90s, but can't remember anything that happened in a movie he saw a few days ago.
Yeah,
so he could.
I'm kind of the same.
He can give you the opening crawl of Highlander 2: The Quickening, but don't ask him what happened in Oppenheimer.
Yeah. I'm done.
Well, I talked a little bit before about how I like certain sections of this movie and not others, and the part that really just plain grosses me out is the Jack-o'-lamb injecting people randomly.
Oh yeah,
and the eating a shaving cream, and it's just
that was
and it's all like it's not quite there in terms of gross out comedy. Like it's not developed enough to work on that level. But it just feels, it's just like I don't want to look at it. Like I don't want to look at the screen when all of this is happening. That's how I feel about it.
I didn't want to look at his mutton chops. I was like, if I had Jack Elam's face, I don't think I'd do mutton chops. It's
that's great.
It's almost too authentic.
Hat on a pig.
Like his portrayal is almost too authentic. Like they picked too good an
You're
actor
right.
to
Yeah.
do this. Like it feels dangerous and sickening.
All of that is carryover from the first movie.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that comedy works better or worse for you in that movie. You'll have to tell me at some point.
We'll have to see.
But there is one great line out of it that really made me laugh when he says, "Sir, I was eating my dessert when I suddenly saw one of the cat people."
He is actually really funny.
I think he's doing
too, like kind of casually Popeye
he's doing
funny.
too good.
But he's too good. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think he's too good.
It's repulsing me. He's and it's very upsetting when it's him and Shirley MacLaine, and he's kind of, I don't know, in his own way, sort of coming on to her or certainly ogling her.
Oh yeah.
That's when I got the sense of they should have picked a worse actor for this, just so it didn't land quite so well.
Yeah.
I mean, my next note is about Frank. Frank's appearance in the movie. I thought it was a great sort of hatchet job on his mobster and presidential connections, having him as like essentially the the president,
right,
or the powers of the president.
And I like that he's Frank Sinatra. Yeah. I like that he, like Dean and Sammy Davis Jr. not playing themselves, but Frank is. But they still have that kind of joking, differential attitude.
But it doesn't really matter that they're not actually Dean and Sammy. It's really metatextually.
It's
very
weird.
Weird
It's very
scene.
meta. Yeah. But I also like the part where he tells J.J. McClure, "You can call me sir." And he turns to Dom DeLuise. He says, "I can call him sir." And he goes, "Not now. I'll tell you when you can."
Not now.
Yeah.
Frank is good.
Once they get Tom, you've already mentioned, why they dressed as women, and I don't have a satisfactory answer for you, except that men of that generation love dressing up as women, but refuse to embrace drag as a concept. Also, I don't quite get it.
Right. Again, that needle that fluctuates across the decades.
Dressing up as women and in blackface, that was all fair game in the early or mid 80s.
And they did
true. Had them rolling in the aisles.
It's true, but I love the fact that when Telly Savalas, when he says, they have hormones with extra hormones, and he looks at Burt Reynolds and he says, "Get me those hormones." So the idea that Burt Reynolds is so manly that even in drag, other men want to be like him.
Yeah, he's got a firm, manly hand.
I also liked when he ripped Dom DeLuise's chest hair out. Any reaction Dom DeLuise has to anything in this movie will make me laugh.
Yeah,
he was
really good.
He was like one of my favorite comedians at this time. I loved everything Dom DeLuise did. I thought I just think he's so funny.
He's in the Muppet movie, for crying out loud.
Exactly.
Mm.
That's how good he is.
That's literally how good he is. My favorite reaction in this set piece, and by the way, this is no longer a race movie. We
gave up on that.
Oh yeah,
we've gone to a ranch.
Let's all stop in one location.
We've gone to a ranch where it's all about getting the $1 million
and the Sheik.
Yeah.
And it's kind of become a comedy western at this point by virtue of it being at a ranch and
I guess so.
The kind of Blazing Saddles.
You know what?
A ranch that's
it
deserted.
Actually feels like the end of the Muppet movie.
Oh my God, it does. Yeah, it's at that ranch.
Yeah.
And then Animal shows up and he's huge.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really funny. I was gonna say though, this ranch is super weird because it's like you drive in and it looks like just like an abandoned ranch or some leftover thing from some western or something, but then it seems like it's supposed to be a club or a resort or something.
Yeah, just in the middle of nowhere.
Riley runs in the middle of nowhere. That does seem abandoned, except when like some bikini clad girls
right,
run.
Exactly. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, like they're just hanging out by the pool. Like they're paid to hang out by the pool, and
they're hanging out like Playboy playmates.
Yeah. They just sprinkle them around the area for color.
Yet, for some reason, nobody can figure out why this business is losing money.
It's not even a sign or anything. There's no parking.
Oh,
but
mercy.
my favorite reaction in this scene is is Abe Vigoda when they cut away to everyone drawing their guns and he's just patting his own suit down like he's a few seconds behind everyone else. He's still looking for his gun, and it's done.
That's awesome.
It's not like they don't hit you. It's great because they don't hit you over the head with it. It's just like you scan everyone and you see in the middle Abe Vigoda kind of just gently patting down his suit.
Yeah,
I'll give Hal Needham that credit too. He does that a lot in this movie, like more medium shots where you can take in the whole thing, and if you see something, you see something.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, and I think his stuntman work, feeds into this movie. There's a lot of things that certainly by our standards today seem crazy. That idea of landing Jackie Chan's car, as that plane. Like there was a real station wagon that had to get the hell out of the way of that plane.
Oh, right.
As it was half landing in the middle of a road. And, that kind of stunt work, I think helps this movie a little bit.
Oh, sure.
As does this scene, because it's a really big fight scene.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's like the end of Blazing Saddles, but without any of the nihilistic meta comedy. It's just slapstick and people hitting each other.
Yeah, and with Dom DeLuise.
Yeah, but I genuinely didn't know that there was film footage of Burt Reynolds and Jackie Chan doing martial arts together. So, just as a kind of historical document, this movie is a winner. I think
that's why it's in the National Archives for that, right? Just for that.
I was wondering about that, and then I saw.
I was wondering what got it in.
Oh, makes total sense now.
For future generations.
And also, anytime Dom DeLuise is throwing people around as Captain Chaos, you'll have to wait to see the first movie, the both of you, but
Oh, okay.
that shit makes me laugh.
Never. I'll never see it.
A dun-dun-dun, followed by somebody going through a window. That's funny.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if... Well, I don't need to ask if you noticed that Telly Savalas was on wires when...
You do not have to ask. It felt very Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
Yeah, it's definitely canon level kind of effects. But do they want? Is it like that they want you to see the wires? Like they actually don't care. They're like, we can see the wires, but that's part of the joke. Or is it simply because there's one or two effects in this movie that kind of that could lead me to think. Either was the case. Earlier on in the movie, there's a broken picture. I think Charles Nelson Riley goes through a broken picture, and I don't know what they're going for. I only know that they didn't achieve it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like...
Right.
I don't think they actually put his head through a picture, but they did it with blue screen or whatever the equivalent was in 1984.
Oh, really?
I don't know, but...
Oh, no, I think they put his head through a made-up wall.
Okay.
I think so, too, but it does look weird. It looks like it didn't
but
go exactly
what I
as
noticed
it meant to or something.
What I noticed more about that scene was that it appeared that his hairpiece fell off, and I didn't know if that was an accident or not.
Right. And we're like, we can only do the wall once.
Yeah,
it's in the movie
exactly.
now. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
This is all we got. But my hair came off. You said you would only shoot your head going through a wall once. Sorry.
Yeah. That's the level of control that Charles Nelson Riley doesn't have, but Burt Reynolds does. If there's any film footage of his hairpiece coming off, that will be immediately destroyed, even if it jeopardizes.
This isn't Match Game,
movie.
Charles. You're not the boss.
Exactly. Well, to answer your question before, Tom, I think that in terms of Telly Savalas on the wire, I think that they were hoping people wouldn't see. I think they thought it was thin enough and that the shot was short enough that people wouldn't notice. That's what I think was happening.
Yeah.
I think whether you see the wires or not, you know something's going on, and his movement is so crazy that I really like it. It's very satisfying. It's one of those things like, I don't know if that's what you guys meant to do, but I'm glad it worked out that way.
Yeah.
He does look like somebody who got kicked off the moon. That's what he looks like, you know?
Nuclear Man style.
Exactly.
Another movie I've never seen, by the way. I've never seen Superman 4.
Oh, mercy.
Uh-huh.
I think
for further information, listen to the dark days of this podcast.
All right.
The dark early days.
Wow. Yeah. I'm still thinking about whether I want to recommend that to you or not. I don't know which. Yeah, I think you should see it. I think it.
Okay.
I'm
scared.
Yeah. That was not a full-throated. All right. That was a worried. Okay.
Yeah, and as I said on the episode, like I had all the Superman on video when I was younger, so I didn't.
Oh sure.
Like I didn't distinguish between the movies.
Oh wow.
Which basically allows me to do this podcast because I don't see everything that everyone dislikes about those movies. I don't get because
interesting.
I just kind of watch them basically as a serial, and they were all on the same level. Yeah. That's definitely the best way to see it.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah. We already made you watch Cannonball Run 2. I don't want to be responsible for making you watch Superman 4: Quest for Peace as well.
I wouldn't be too worried.
It's short. It's only 90 minutes. That's part of the problem.
Okay.
It's not long enough.
So says you.
So that's my operational theory. It's not long enough.
You're the only one in the world that wants more than 90 minutes of that.
Pretty much. So Savalas on strings, and then we double up the prize money with minutes left in the movie.
Yeah.
Just to get us to that finish line.
And then the actual race starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure it does.
So, so that begins, and this is where you realize you've effectively wasted your runtime on a subplot about stealing the prize money rather than seeing the race that you were promised.
It's called pacing, people.
But again, at least the cartoon map shows that they've acknowledged that they have to do a rush job on this.
That is true.
Yeah.
To get us to the finish.
So you say they actually do finish the race in the first movie? Like, do you actually get the sense of them going across the United States of America? In any way? Okay.
Because you do. There's sort of more because they're going the other way. They're going from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Okay.
I don't know. I want to say they end in Long Beach, or maybe that's just where it was shot. But you do have a sense of sort of, the East Coast kind of green, and then you get into the desert, and So
Cool.
it does feel as though miles have actually been driven in that movie. I think
The locations have changed. They traveled a little bit.
Yeah.
That's good.
But like I said, I mean, I think they thought, well, we already showed one ending, and we want this movie. We want this movie to be no longer than, what is it, 94 minutes or no? This is longer than it should be.
No,
isn't it like 145?
It's nearly 2. I mean, I'm rounding up, but it's nearly 2 hours. It's like one.
Is it really?
48 minutes. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it
hour
breezes by.
48. That's what it is. Ooh, man, that's too much.
Especially when you
I
have
will
to
say,
do most of the film in the last few minutes.
Yeah.
It could have been worse. But that whole animated thing, it was fun, again, it was fun for me because it's got Darien, my hometown, like right on the big thing. And
That's
this
great.
and I've always talked about how Darien has come up in 3 or 4 movies over the years, mentioned specifically, and it's always about how it is a creepily exclusive, white people only kind of town. Like it's in gentleman's agreement, like, I can't go up there, I'm Jewish, they're not going to accept me and stuff, and they don't. Or, there's some remark about like, oh, he's that Aryan from Darien or whatever, and stuff, like in Anti-Mame and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And, it's gotten better. But, but I was excited, like, oh, there's no Darien's in a movie and there's no mention of it. Oh, Stepford Wives, that's the other one. They actually filmed Stepford Wives in Darien, Connecticut, and that's got its own problems. But yeah, so it was good to see, just a big cartoon Darien from 1984. That's fun. Like, and they're, no, they didn't film there, but, it's fun to see my hometown mentioned in some positive hijinks kind of way.
Yeah, it's only represented in that they want to get out of there as quickly as possible. They're leaving tomorrow.
Turn around and go back.
and
This place
do
sucks.
another race.
Yeah. And so this was this going back promised to us in the movie? Did I miss that part of the race is that you go back the next day? Is the race still going?
That for the first
No,
time
this race is
there.
over, and they were going to do another race.
Oh, so that's Cannonball Run 3 that they're starting.
They were setting up a Cannonball Run 3 that never came.
Oh boy.
Unless it was in the guise of Speed Zone.
Speed Zone.
Depending on who you ask, yeah. Wow.
They should have made it that everyone died except Jamie Foxx, except whoever was in Speed Zone. Like they just crashed, and then you show stock footage of cars crashing, and you say, "Well, that was Burt Reynolds. He's gone." And
oh no,
there's Jack Alarm. Jack Alarm's gone off in a weird cloud.
There's some sort of commotion up front, and Dom DeLuise says, "I'll save them." Dun dun dun, and then he rams them, and the cars explode. Roll credits.
Sounds great.
Yep. The end.
It's almost as if you could do the entire movie just with stock footage. Well, I mean, that's, Frank joins the race. He becomes one of the racers, and we see him in an adjacent shot to the others in the Rat Pack. And
I was actually amazed that he showed up for a second location. Like that one, the scene of him was like so like, okay, they gave Frank, I don't know, $1 million, I don't know, to like be in this movie, or he did it as a favor, just make it as simple as possible. And maybe that's like his house, I don't know. But like, the fact that he's in a car later on doing another whole shot, I'm like, wow, he's committed. That's incredible. Wow, they got Frank Sinatra.
By the way, this is Frank's last theatrical performance.
Oh, wow.
He did some TV stuff, including episode of Magnum PI, but this was his last theatrical performance.
Well, it's glorious.
Went out a winner.
Yeah. I wonder if they made that decision about the second location on the fly. Like Frank got into his car and they were like, "Let's grab another car, go alongside him and film it."
That's actually second.
Hand him sides as he's driving.
Yeah.
That's actually second fun fact. That car actually his car.
Wow. It all makes sense. Yes, they were sort of like, could we get one scene of you driving down this road and then you Bela Lugosi
going to the grocery store. You want to film this? Okay, put it in the movie. I don't care.
If you can catch me, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
And the results of the race is revealed to us through an orangutan kiss, which you can't complain about that.
That's how you end a movie.
Yeah,
that's how the Olympics should end. I think that's like every Olympic race should end with the result being shown via orangutan kiss.
Yeah. Some people get awards and medals. Other people get to kiss a monkey.
You get onto the podium to kiss the orangutan.
Yeah.
None of this silver, gold, bronze nonsense.
Yeah,
It's just straight up. You either kiss the orangutan or you didn't get a medal.
Yeah. And as you do it, you think about all the other brilliant athletes who have also kissed that monkey.
Yeah.
Like, oh, where have those lips been? This is athletic royalty.
The gold medal is you get to kiss the orangutan. The silver medal is you get the bird from the orangutan. And the bronze medal is you get slapped by the orangutan.
Yep.
We just fixed the Olympics, everyone.
We did.
Now everyone's going to watch. Just in time, too.
Well, Tom, I know you wanted to talk about the bloopers.
Well, sure.
Or had questions.
We always do a credit check on the show. I already started it. Actually, most of the interesting credits are up front, which is weird. But yeah, the bloopers, and I mean that's something else I knew about this movie before seeing it, is that it had a famous blooper reel. That was mostly.
It seemed to be a Burt Reynolds thing.
Yes,
like Smoking the Bandit had that, and 2 had that, and I assume Cannonball Run does.
It very much does, and one that's way better than this one.
Okay. Well, that's always a huge letdown. It's when hey, bloopers, they weren't that good.
Yeah.
But
also
these weren't that good.
But does that mean that these bloopers are more likely to have been staged? Because
we know the Frank part was.
Yeah, that was actually the edited bloopers. That doesn't count. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to edit reaction shots into a blooper.
Yeah.
That's false.
But I don't know where this stands in the history of the blooper reel. I've been meaning to look into this, but the earliest one I can think of is Being There. The Peter Sellers film that has a blooper reel. That has a blooper reel, or that Peter Sellers tried to take out of showings of the movie because he didn't like that he was shown to be making mistakes. He did the actor thing of saying, it breaks the illusion of the character, but he just doesn't want to be that vulnerable.
I can sort of see that.
Yeah. So that's the earliest one I remember. So I think this is pretty early on in the blooper reel tradition, but the movie has... It's interesting that it's... Bert and Dom are the focus of the bloopers, so it's almost like it's bloopers for them. The orangutan. Like, that's who we're focusing on in the bloopers, which again I don't think you can have a focus to a blooper reel, like, and it's got to be it either happens or it doesn't, to whoever it happens to.
You want too much narrative structure to your bloopers.
Right, and not enough to your movie.
Defeats the purpose.
The most amazing.
Now you're paying attention.
The most amazing part of the bloopers is it's like, it looks like the orangutan develops sentience or more sentience than he has, where you see like the director's trying to tell him to do something and he's already doing it, like he doesn't need humans anymore to tell him what to do, which scares the fuck out of me.
Beyond us.
It makes sense of just like, as sort of like the director or whatever it is, the animal wrangler, I don't know who that guy is kind of trying to coach him to do things that he's already doing because he's a pro, I guess, by this point.
Yeah. He knows his job.
And he's only got 3 things he can do, as we've said: the silver, gold, or bronze.
Yeah. And hold your nose.
I don't need
banana.
your fucking banana.
I'm gonna punch Tim Conway the way I want to do
Exactly.
it. I don't need you to tell me.
I'm always in that scene as well. I was so scared someone got hurt. Like, even looking at it now, I'm like, being hit by an orangutan of that size.
He wallops him.
It must. It must take its toll. I bet those two are never the same again.
It was his last movie too. So sad. Yeah. We laugh now, but it was sad at the time.
It was bad, yeah.
The only thing I know about Clyde the orangutan is that he was supposed to be in a Cannon film, and he bit the child he was going to act with, so they replaced. So they hired they put a little person in an orangutan suit.
Oh
Make
wow!
the movie that way.
Oh,
Can't remember what the name of that movie was.
And no one could tell.
No, yeah,
that movie was E.T. Inadvertently became a huge hit.
That's right. But anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. A credit that I picked out: women's costumes by Kathy O'Rea, which sounds too much like a Zucker Naked Gun credit to completely dismiss. And then Lamborghini supplied by Celebrity Machine, and I'm desperate to know if this is a company that supplies Lamborghinis, or they're just saying the Lamborghini was supplied by the concept of the Celebrity Machine.
Yeah, it is a celebrity machine. Yeah.
The Celebrity Machine allowed us to get a Lamborghini. So,
thank you, Celebrity Machine.
That's funny you say that, because I could swear that I read on IMDb notes or something that Catherine Bach, of course, is good friends with John Schneider. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe he had a Lamborghini and loaned it to them for this movie, I read. And then he's in Speed Zone and used his car for that.
Oh, my God.
Or maybe it wasn't the Lamborghini, but one of the other cars or something. I don't remember, but... There's some sort of weird connection there.
Very early on in this movie, it kind of turns into a Lamborghini commercial for about 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, oh, sure.
Right. I kind of like, Tom, you might have seen this. I think they were posted on the Listeners Crusade, the Chilean Star Wars TV broadcast.
Oh yeah,
They would put commercials in the movie. Right. Based on something that the actors were doing, like getting the lightsaber out of the chest and it's full of beers.
Right. Yeah.
And that kind of felt like this. I was like, hold on a minute, do they work the commercials into the movie? Like this is a TV broadcast? How are they doing this? So
yeah. Do we know how the sales of Lamborghinis were affected after this movie came out? Was there a spike?
I didn't look it up.
Those are the real stats we need. Yeah. To understand this movie. With that said, there's one more credit check. Just a couple of names I wanted to say out loud: Snuff Garnet and Al Caps. Again, I'm not sure if these are real people.
Al Caps.
But
wow.
And that's so close to all caps that I'm suspicious that's real.
That is suspicious.
Oh, ironically, not in all caps.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it must be a real name.
Yeah.
They missed an opportunity there.
I think so.
All right. Well, any last thoughts?
Not really. No. I'm so happy to have talked about this movie with both of you, and I understand it better and I understand it worse after.
I am actively. I can't overstate how much I look forward to watching Cannonball Run, the first one. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. This movie was basically fun, and I enjoyed it. And hopefully I'm not overselling it for myself, but I'm imagining, well, this is the lesser one. Like when I see the first one, that's going to blow me out of the water. It's going to be incredible. Like everything that kind of worked in this is going to be amazing in that one. So I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. So thank you.
I think
I'm going to be blown away.
Is what's going to happen.
Okay. Perfect. Guaranteed.
I don't want to ever see it, so I can keep whatever illusions I have about what it is alive.
Oh, that's probably
through the prism of this movie.
All right.
Because everything that Mike has said, it's already thrown me that they're. We had this with the Bad News Bears. Like I hadn't seen the original Bad News Bears, watched the sequels, and then went back to the original, and I didn't. I didn't even know Tatum O'Neal. I was like, how could she be a part of this? Like, where could she fit in? She didn't fit in, but still, it was sort of like the retrofitting.
That is weird.
Part of it.
That's your assertion, sir.
Yeah. Bad News Bears is a gem.
Oh yeah. We both enjoyed it.
The only thing I'll say about the first one is most likely Jack Elam will still gross you out.
Okay. All right. And I look forward to it.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
That's all I'm going to give you right here and right now.
Thank you for the fair warning.
I guess I have one thing I do want to say. This is a random note, but Terry Bradshaw appears in the first one, and in this movie we have Joe Theismann as the truck guy with the two women, with Anton and Bach, and I made a note at one point that said, that guy's a pretty good actor. I thought he seemed very natural on screen. So, Joe Theismann, good on you, sir.
Yeah.
It's such a low bar
sir.
of acting you've established.
I fully believed he was looking down those women's shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
He sold it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to tell us what you think about Cannonball Run 2, the 1984 opus by Hal Needham. Find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, find us nowhere else, or send us an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. For Tom Taylor, who was nice enough to join us, for Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions.
who's going to turn up anyway is the implication.
Say goodbye to everybody, Toms.
Goodbye, everybody.